Hello and welcome back, friends, to another episode of Lynch Paints, where I, Lynch, will be showing you all today how to paint the classic Scythes of the Emperor colour scheme rather than the orange and black. Although, to be fair, the orange and black in that Astartes 2 trailer does look fantastic, but didn't quite have enough time today to paint both of them. So I've just gone with the yellow, just to see how it goes, really, because I haven't painted yellow in years, absolute years, because I hate painting yellow, but with the new contrast paints, it's made it a hell of a lot easier. If you wanted to just help this little channel out grow just a little bit more, then do consider the subscribe button down below. Click it, it's free, takes 2 seconds, and then by the time you click that, we'll be already into the intro video. So let's grab our paints and paintbrushes, and let's get straight into it. But before we start, we're going to need a selection of paints, and these are all the ones I've used in this video today, alongside which we're going to need a big chunky brush, a small and medium-sized brush, thank you, and a teeny weeny teeny tiny brush for all of those teeny tiny places. So the first step we're going to take is we're going to base the model in a white acrylic primer. So we're just going to imagine that you've got loads of these marines to do, so we're not going to do like a proper in-depth fanciful painting video. It's more going to be like, how is the easiest way to get these painted? So I've got this lovely Imperial Fist contrast paint, got a nice medium-sized brush, and we are going to do the torso, backpack, the cod piece, and I believe the helmet as well. So we're just going to give it a nice coat just over the top, using a brush that is most comfortable for you to use. And we're going to try not to go over the areas that we're going to be painting in black. Otherwise you're going to get a little faint yellow glow just coming from underneath. I'm going to try to avoid that as best we can. If you do go over some bits, it's not to worry. You can always go back over and either try and remove it if it's still wet, or if it's already dried, then you can just go over just with regular black paint. So while we're waiting for the yellow to dry, we're going to move over onto our other colour, which is going to be our Black Legion contrast. So using the same brush or a bigger one, we are just going to go very carefully over the rest of the armour. Now we'll double check just to see here. Sure the pads are all black, and they are. This is good. Don't want to make a mistake of just going over it and realising that they're yellow, because that will be an absolute pain to try and work over. So best bet is to probably thin it down with just a little bit of water and do some 2 thinner coats rather than just chucking it all on and hoping for the best. Because contrast paint is great for areas where there's lots of angles and different surfaces, but something like a shoulder pad, it's not going to be as smooth, but we can always smooth it out later on just using some of the more traditional paints. So after all that, your model should look something like this. So what we're going to do, just while the black's drying, is we're going to go back over the yellow. So I've got some of this flash gets yellow, and I've got some of this white as well. So I'm just going to go take some of this, and then just using a medium-sized brush, we're just going to thin it down just a tad with some water. And we're just going to go over some of the panels just to smooth them out a little bit. So it's not too bad on the chest plate. darkness of the torso area, but more so on the backpack. So it's just not looking as smooth as I'd like. So next we're just going to add in some white just to make it a little bit brighter. Then we're going to go over and kind of do a bit of a wet blend, but not really. So we're just going to pick out just the raised areas before we then add in even more white to do a nice highlight. So now I'm swapping out to a teeny tiny brush to paint all of these teeny tiny places, and we're just going to do a load of highlighting. So mixed in, it is majoritarily white, and then just a tiny bit of yellow in there as well. And then we're just going to just pick out a few areas. You don't need to go too crazy with highlighting. I tend not to, A, because it saves time, and B, because highlighting is kind of boring. So just pick out a few areas. Unless you really enjoy highlighting, then who are you? Then just, highlight as much or as little as you like. As long as you pick out a few just key areas to give the impression that it's all highlighted. And that's all good. So the yellow is almost complete, and what we're going to do next is that we're just going to grab some of this Agrat's Earth Shade, and then with a thin brush we're just going to go carefully into the recesses and just give a little bit more contrast to our miniature. So you may have noticed that I didn't go over the helmet with the Agrat's Earthshade, and that is because I have been a bit of an idiot and I forgot to check the reference photos. I'm not a huge Scythes the Emperor fan, gotta be honest, but turns out the helmets are black. So I'm just gonna slap some of this Black Legion contrast over the helmet, and we'll be right back. So just while I'm waiting for the helmet to dry, I'm just gonna go over the leatherworks, just with a mixture of Abaddon Black and some of this Mournfang Brown. Give it a nice general base coat, and then we're going to go back over the top, just using more and more of the Mournfang Brown in our mixture, and then just doing a nice light highlight at the end. So now we're going to go back over the black armour, and I've got a mixture of Abaddon Black and some of the lovely Incubi Darkness. Thin it down with a nice bit of water, and we're just going to go just back over the top, just to smooth it out just a little bit. I mean, I know that the contrast paint is great for even behind some of the highlights you can kind of see there, but it's, I don't know, it's not quite dark enough for me. If it's dark enough for you, happy days, you know, you don't have to do this step. But for me, I'm just going to go back over it just to smooth it out, especially over like the shoulder pads where it has pooled in a few areas. Can't quite see on camera, but when you have it in front of you as you're painting along or whatever, you do notice that there's these odd little kind of imperfections that I'm just going to try to rectify. And then using the Incubi Darkness, because it's a it's got sort of blue hues to it, and it helps to set it apart from black of the weapons. I'm going to use grey later on for highlighting, so it just helps just to differentiate the two, so that it's not all the same sort of colour. So now that that first layer is complete, we're just going to introduce more and more of this Incubi Darkness into our mixture, we're going to thin it down so it's more like a, not quite a glaze, we're just going to kind of like wet blend a little bit. Now, some of you might be wondering, so what was the point in putting down the contrast paint to start with if we're just going to go and paint back over the top? Well, I tend to use the contrast paints as a base. So, because this model was white to start out with, I would have had to have taken many layers of black paint in order to get that sort of that rich dark that I would be after for painting all these black armor pieces. Whereas with the contrast paint, you just slap it on just the once, and that's already, to me anyway, like the equivalent of going over it sort of 3 times at least with black. And also because it's just one coat, it means that there's less layers, which means that there's less chances of it looking streaky or losing detail, that sort of thing. Same sort of thing with the yellow, I went back over that as well, in places. So what I would suggest is, with the contrast paints, unless you've got like 200 termagaunts to get through, or a load of sort of Imperial Guard or just chaff infantry, and you're happy to just slap on all the contrast paints, just use them. But I would suggest to use them more as a tool rather than to use as an end result piece, if that makes any sense. So use them to get the base colours that you need, and then apply more over the top of it. Next up, using our tiny brush, we're just going to mix in the Incubi Darkness with a little bit of Storm Vermin Fur, and maybe just a tad of black, just to darken it down a little bit. It depends on how bright you want your highlights to be. So we're just going to go over and just pick out a few areas. Again, if you want to highlight the entire thing, go ahead. If you just want to pick out a few key points, like myself, then do that. But just take your time, have fun, and that's the most important step. So while we have our Storm Vermin Fur, I'm just going to grab some black. I'm going to mix the two together, and we are just going to go over the sort of grey-black panels of the weapons. So mix the two together, give it a nice general base coat, and then we will go back over the top and just highlight using pure Storm Vermin. Can't speak today. So we'll highlight with pure Storm Vermin Fur afterwards. There we go, that's better. Next step, we're just going to move on to some of the metallics. So we've got this Iron Warriors Silver, and we're just going to pick out just a few areas, including the chest plate. I think I'll paint it silver. I've seen a few artworks and bits and pieces where it is left yellow, some that have been painted in gold, but I quite like it in silver, so that's what I'm going to do. You can paint it however you like. It is of course entirely up to you, but that's what I'm going to do. And then just to finish off the metalwork, I've got some of this lovely Runefang steel. It's a really nice bright chainmail silver. I'm just going to use this just to pick out just a few areas, mainly on the Aquila on the chest plate. Just to make it stand out just a little bit. All you need to do really is just go over the edge of the wings on either side. just like that, a little bit on the top of the skull, maybe a little bit on the face, and it really stands out. You can put on a little wash if you like afterwards as well, just to deepen some of those recesses. And then yeah, just pick out just a couple of areas. Don't need to go too mad with this, but just over a few areas to give the impression that, you know, it is quite reflective will do the trick. So we're almost finished. I've just got a couple of little areas left to do. So the Purity Seal. I tend to use Skeleton Horde contrast paint just for the cloth, just because it goes on like so, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And yeah, just wait for it to dry. You can put some little text squiggles on there if you like, or you can just leave it plain. It's entirely up to you. And with the Purity Seal, so I'm going to do the Purity Seal and the eyes at the same time. Not quite exactly at the same time, but you know what I mean. So what I tend to see is that the colour of the eye lens is often the same colour that they use for the Purity Seal. So I'm going to mix a bit of black and a bit of yellow, just to get a nice dark yellow? What am I on about? I'm looking, it's because I've been using a lot of yellow. Black and red, make a nice dark red. Red. And with this, we're just going to go around the Purity Seal, like so. And the same with the eyes, so we're going to go in like this. So we're going to leave the very back part of the eye lens completely black. So we're going to want to do like the first 2/3 of the eye lens in the very dark red. So I'm going to switch over to my other brush now, my fine detailed brush, my teeny weeny tiny brush for all the teeny tiny places, and I've got more of this red. And I'm going to mix in just a little bit of the previous colour into there as well, so it's not a pure bright red. So, the Purity Seal, we're just going to go, no, I will just put in just the pure red into there, just make it stand out a little bit. So with the eyes, we're now going to go and do, so the first half of the lens. We want to try and sort of drag the brush underneath so it's closer to the cheek bone plate, face plate. So we're not dragging it up, further up the head, we're kind of dragging it further down. And that just creates a much nicer, I don't know, just a much nicer look, really. So, rinse that. And just to keep our paint count down a little bit, we're just going to mix in some yellow in with the red, rather than grabbing an orange, because then that's just another paint we gotta include with this. So, making a nice orange. I'm just going to highlight Purity Seal, just doing little blobs here and there. That's that done. So with the lens for the Space Marine, we're just going to do a tiny little bit at the front, and again just kind of try and drag it down just a little bit if you can. Cool. So that's the front there. If it's not bright enough, or if it doesn't kind of stand out as much, you can always just go back over it again and just thin it down with a little bit of water before you do so, just to make sure that your blends are nice and smooth. So that's pretty darn good. Pop in a little bit more there. Now we're just going to rinse our brush off nice and thoroughly. And then we're going to grab a little bit of this white, and we're going to put in a teeny tiny white dot at the back of the lens, just to show that it is indeed a reflective surface. Just like that. Probably can't quite see it, but it's a teeny tiny white dot at the back. So that's really it. But of course, we're going to be doing the freehand of the shoulder pads, so it's going to clear a little bit of space, and I'll be right back. So we are here at the end to do the freehand symbol. So yellow is notorious for being a very, very thin colour, which is why I haven't really used it properly, or at least for armour panels, in many, many, many years. So I was quite excited to try out the yellow contrast paint, and you know what, it's really freaking good. It is really good. So I'm mixing in some brown with the yellow just to give it a bit of a base coat first, and then build up on the yellows. So it will help, and it means that there's not going to be as many layers going into this. So I'm going to grab the image, excuse the little camera shake there. It is literally just two sides, but I just want to be as accurate as I can. And yeah, let's get started. So this is how I went about painting the size of the Emperor chapter for your Space Marine armies. It's been a really interesting one to do. I haven't done anything with yellow in many, many, many years, so using this Imperial Fist contrast paint has really, really helped out. So I'll be doing, or rather looking into more chapters that have that kind of nice yellow flare to them. Maybe not the Imperial Fists, but well, we'll see. We shall see. I also wanted to make this video just to kind of mention that I've heard a bit of discourse around the size of the Emperor chapter with the Astartes 2 video and how they look more orange than yellow. And I've got to be honest, does it really matter? I mean, the video was probably that sort of showing them in a darker environment, so it looked more orange than yellow. But I was very tempted to paint one of these in an orange as well and have them side by side and say, look, you know, they're both the same chapter, pretty much the same colour. If you're going to have an entire army of the more yellow type or the more orange type, it wouldn't really matter, so long as, you know, they're painted up really, really well, which they would be anyway. Your opponent's not really going to care. He's just going to have a really fun time having a battle with you. And whether it's yellow or orange, but with the black, it's a really lovely colour scheme. Really does stand out. So I just kind of want to say that it doesn't really matter so much, so long as it's within that kind of colour area. I mean, it's the same with the Night Lords. I mean, Games Workshop, they paint them up in, for me anyway, a much brighter blue than I would like. That I've kind of seen in the artworks. They look a lot like, what was it, the Crimson Fists. It's far too bright. Whereas I paint my Night Lords very, very, very dark blue, very much midnight clad. But you know, it is. I know it is like personal preference at the end of the day, but I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there that it doesn't matter what kind of shade of yellow, or if you're painting salamanders, what kind of shade of green you're painting, or whatever. Blood angels, whatever kind of shade of red you're painting, it doesn't really matter as long as it's done well, and you're just going to have a good time with your opponent. It's going to be fine. So hopefully that's all kind of old news anyway, but yeah, I would have painted another one in the orange just to kind of show you, but I didn't really have enough time, and my eye is just about healed for me to do this video. So enough waffling now. If you did enjoy this video, then do show your appreciation with a like, and if you're new, subscribe as well. Comment down below, do you like them in the yellow, do you like them in the orange? It'd be interesting to see your responses. I think at some point I might paint one in orange and just be like, hey, look, doesn't matter. So hope that you have all had fun today. That is the main point for this video, is just having fun. So if you want to pick up some Marines for yourselves and check out Wayland Games, I have an affiliate link for them down in the description below. If you give it a click on that link and order anything, then a little bit goes towards me and supporting the channel, and that would be incredible. And if you want to support me just a little bit more, then you can leave me a super thanks down below, and donate anything you like. Buy me a coffee, or maybe a new pot of paint or something. Just whatever you can manage is hugely appreciated, and really, really grateful for it. So without further ado, stay safe, stay beautiful, we'll see you all next time.